Hi guys, welcome back to another episode on Real Talk. We are on episode 56. I'm Caitlin, the Marketing and Communications Coordinator for the Freedom Real Estate Group family of companies. And today we are here with Jen. She is a rehab coordinator for Bulldog, which is a sister company under the family of companies. And today we are going to be talking about buying a historic home, rehabbing it, and what to kind of expect in the buying process, and as well as the rehabbing process. So one of the things I'll get started with on what makes a home or property historic. Things such as design, age, the tradition of it, symbolic. Those things all play a factor. But as well as if the property received any kind of special recognition, if it's 50 years or older in that time frame. So things such as like events, special events, or important people. Things like that. I know here in the Dayton area we have quite a few that I'll get into later. That's actually very cool. I've been to a couple of them myself. So things like that you can look for. I believe in the vlog, Jen also mentioned you can also look it up online. Do you remember where you said?
I know that there are registries through the state and probably through a city or a municipality where... And it could be both. It could be on the Ohio Registry of Historic Places and or the city or municipality's own registry for that. Okay. So where you would find that, I think your best first step is to contact your local city hall or local government building if you even suspect that you have an historic an historic district home.
Yeah. Not even necessarily if the property itself is historic, but like you said, if it's even in a historic district, because there are some things to be made aware of there alone. So there are some pros and cons to owning a historic home. One of the biggest pros, especially for an investor, are going to be some tax incentives, not only for the state, but also federally. I don't know exactly what that is. You might want to get with your tax professional on that. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. And then you can also get special loans and grants. I know the loans you can specifically get lower interest rate loans for a historic home, which I did not know.
And that makes sense because sometimes restoring the home, restoring the property, they don't want you to replace a lot of things with modern materials. Yeah. And to restore with the original materials, even to find them, is sometimes more costly. So those loans and grants probably come in handy.
Oh, absolutely, I'm sure. Another thing is you can get a plaque on posted on the exterior that the city will place. In that, it also opens you up to a network of people locally and kind of around the United States that are in a historic home or historic district that has information you can learn from them. There are even investors on there that have tips for real estate investing and whether you Airbnb it or you rent it out a little longer term for residents. So there is that benefit as well, and you can kind of gain some knowledge there. And like I said, you're open to that community. And then the last one that I found is well-maintained homes actually are outpacing newer homes when it comes to increasing values. Thought that was interesting. It makes sense, absolutely.
I believe it. Right.
I mean, everyone loves a little piece of history, I think.
Right. Well, and we always sound old when we say it, but they don't make things the way they used to.
They don't.
And there's a reason why these 100-plus-year-old homes are still standing because they were built like fortresses, some of them, back when they were built. Yeah. The materials were just different. They were made to last. And sometimes you get into, we have more environmentally friendly materials nowadays. All our materials are kind of lighter and, some of them are better quality, but you can't beat some of that just like solid, good bones, house type of thing. So, yeah, I could see that.
There's actually one historic home on here that I was going to get to a little later, but it is the Patterson home located in Dayton, and it was built by a colonel from the Revolutionary War.
Wow.
And at the time, he used war grade or military grade materials to build the home.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was interesting. I was like, that is probably largely to why it is still around.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting fact. But I have more of those later on that we'll get to. So just like anything, there are some cons. We kind of got into it a little bit in the vlog. There are some limitations that you may run into when you are rehabbing the home, especially when it comes to the exterior. I know right now we are personally experiencing one with box gutters. Do you want to get on that at all?
Sure. So, the cons are exterior, and I want to speak interior a little bit, just because these are older homes. So your mechanical elements are probably old as well. Mm-hmm. You're probably looking at, upgrading an electrical panel, gas lines, needing to be tested or maybe updated if you're going to have a gas furnace or gas water heater. And, some of it too is, did this property have radiator heat? Is there ductwork throughout the house? Yeah. And this comes with any old house, not just a historic house, but it's definitely stuff to consider when you are buying, as well as the roof. Mm-hmm. Now, the roof can run into both. You have that as a, obviously, component of, something that you're going to need to make it safe and structurally sound. But that comes into the exterior as well. Mm-hmm. So what a lot of these historic homes and the people who kind of make sure that everything stays aesthetically, not even similar, but just in the period or whatever.
Right.
What they're concerned with is making sure that with the windows or the exterior or, the doors, the roofs, kind of don't become so modernized that you lose the historic feel of it. And because of that, depending on where you are, you will need to get approval for any kind of exterior adjustment you want to make. Mm-hmm. So it's a good idea to, like I said, get out in front of this, budget a little more time and a little more money, because you might have to submit your plans to an architectural review board. You might have to attend a meeting if they want to, really hear from you and kind of, defend your position. You might have to spend a little more on materials if they want you to restore instead of replace. So there's that kind of stuff to really consider when you're going into it.
Yeah. And even, like we kind of touched on in the vlog, is even something that seems as small as paint colors. The city or the committee may only have a select few paint colors that you can pick from. So getting that approved. And you'll have to get like the name of the paint color and everything. Right. I think sometimes some are even as specific as like what brand you use.
Well, so windows are the same way.
Okay.
So, if you want to replace old wood windows, first of all, they really want you to restore them. Now, that's a tough one because a lot of those, any kind of moisture or termites is really going to compromise the integrity of a wood window. And there are ways to restore them, but part of that too is the energy efficiency. You just don't have that anymore with a wood window. So I know that certain towns or municipalities actually have a list of approved windows that they will allow you to replace your wood windows with.
Okay.
So it just can't be any old, cheap vinyl window because, again, they're trying to preserve that aesthetic nature. So you really need to find out about that stuff before you start your project.
Yeah. And also, it goes to say that, not every area is the same, or even every property. There's different time periods and different architectural structures that were built. So it all just depends on that property and the area that you're in and what they have going on. And it can all be different. Some may be a little more lenient, some may be a little more strict. It all just really depends where you are located and where the property is.
Yep, very true. And I think for the most part, even though it can get a little bit frustrating to deal with some of the delays and having to go to meetings and the boards and stuff, they are, first of all, I think appreciative of people who are willing to buy these properties. Some of them have been vacant for a long time. Some of them are run down and they're going to get fixed up. They don't want this to be a huge financial burden to the buyer.
Yes.
So they are willing to work with you. Again, though, I think they really appreciate it if you get out in front of it. If you go and do something and then try to come back around, that's when you're kind of going to get your wrist slapped, because they want to be a part of that process.
And I believe you can even get fined if you do something without getting it approved.
Yeah, I think so too.
So again, like we said in the vlog, definitely be transparent when you are working on a property that is either historic itself or in a historic district. Just dot all your I's, cross all your T's, and be safe and make sure that you are taking the necessary steps for that approval process.
Right, because you don't want that fine, and you don't want, even worse, them to deny you like a certificate of occupancy and say you can't even move in here, because these things weren't approved.
Absolutely. Trying to see if I had any other cons. Really, all that I could find on it was just being cautious with the renovations.
Sure.
And keeping about a 20% aside for the unforeseen, because you never know what is going to happen. So keeping 20% aside for extra just in case. You never know what could happen. So that is what I found on that. Do you have anything else to add before I move on?
No, I think that's very good. Like you were talking about before with the box gutters, we would like to be able to just put in aluminum gutters in one property that we have, kind of hide them so it still looks aesthetically pleasing. But we agreed to get an estimate at least on what it would cost to repair the box gutters. And, if the cost is somewhat close, then we'll probably go with it.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And that goes to say too, even if it's very similar with having a historic property and being in a historic district, because even if your property isn't historic itself, if it's in a district, you may still be responsible for maintaining that property to fit the aesthetic of the rest of the area. Mostly it's going to be kind of like exterior work,
right?
For people who are passing through, again, just trying to keep that aesthetic. So that is also something to be aware of, even if you are just buying within a district alone.
Absolutely. Yep. They don't want you to paint certain things. We usually paint our foundation and our porch steps. They don't want you to do that. They don't want bright colors or colors that are out of character. You just kind of have to let them tell you what you're looking at. Yeah.
And I know too, if you do buy a property in a historic district and you want to get your property specifically marked as a historic location, there is a process that you can go through to get that approved, and then you can again access those pros, such as like the tax incentives for federal and state. So there is that opportunity for you as well if you are wanting to go down that route. I want to talk about next about what to kind of expect when buying. There are, it can be a little different than buying a more modern home, if you will. Some things are going to be, it may be harder to schedule an appraisal for it. Typically, it will usually appraise higher than normal because of the historic value. But some appraisers, because it is a historic home, some things may be dated. It may be more difficult for them. So it may be harder to find an appraiser who will do that.
Okay. I was going to say, do appraisers know when they're dealing with a historic property?
Yeah. So you may run into that issue where you may not have maybe an experienced appraiser or someone who maybe they just don't like doing historic homes for whatever reason. So you may be able expecting that, and that could, again, go on with having a longer timeline kind of expected.
Got it.
Again, some lenders also might shy away. However, there are specific lenders for historic homes. And then insurance companies. Again, kind of a similar situation with lenders. Some insurance might shy away because they could consider it a higher risk. But there are specific companies out there for historic homes and districts that are out there. And again, for the insurance companies, they typically will offer a lower interest rate for those ones that are specific to historic areas.
That's good, because you don't want this to be a financial burden.
Right, absolutely. And that's one of the things I saw is that they don't want that. So they have these specific companies put in place because there are themselves also historic lovers or architectural fans. So they understand that value, and they want to maintain as much of American history as we can.
Right. And that's a cool thing.
Absolutely.
You see in these districts, every house is unique. Every house has a different character. And that's neat. And like you said, it was part of a certain era of that city's history or that town's history, or somebody famous built it, or somebody famous lived there.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Cool stuff.
It is. And that's, I know I talked earlier about some of the fun facts. That's a good transition point. I just wrote down a few specifically for the Dayton area. Here we have the Wright brothers house, which I don't know if you have ever been there. It's absolutely beautiful. I've never gone inside. I know you can go in and tour it.
Right.
It's a museum
that would be something
now.
To do.
But it has these large pillars in the front, and the front and back are actually replicated. So the front and back look exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
But it's beautiful. If you are ever in the Dayton area, I absolutely encourage you to go. It's an amazing experience. And then the Wright brothers, just in case you didn't know, they were the first pilots. So it's very cool to have located here. I loved it. I love going. It's amazing. And the city has done a great job with preserving it.
That's good.
The next one that I have kind of talked about a little bit is the Patterson homestead from the Revolutionary War. And it was in the family for 3 generations. And the general, like I said, he built the home with war or military grade materials, and it is still standing
so
today.
It's never going to fall down.
Yeah. And one of the descendants was John H. Patterson, and he actually founded the National Cash Register.
Yep, that was
cool.
big. I think that still is based in Dayton.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was, founded and a big part of the, Dayton economy for a long time.
Absolutely. And then the last one I have is the Lewis Kemp House, which was one of the very first few houses here located in the Dayton metro area. And it was built in 1806 with brick and limestone. And I believe it was 2 or 3 years after they built it and they were living there, they donated the home to a school. And then a year later, they donated part of the land. I forget how many acres they bought. It was quite a few. They donated part of the land to the first cemetery located here in Dayton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot more that you can research.
And those are all ones that you would visit. No one is actually living in those currently?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Those are all currently museums that you can look at. And like I said, there's a ton more, Middletown and Cincinnati especially. I should have looked some of those up.
I think Oakwood has a fair number of properties that are actually residential.
Yes, I know. I believe the Kettering family home is one.
That would make sense. Yep.
And then I know this is actually a fun fact. My parents, this was years ago, maybe 2010, maybe. They purchased I don't remember what mayor it was, but one of the previous mayor's homes, and it was abandoned for several years.
Wow.
Went in and rehabbed it. One of the family members actually still lived locally in the area, and they brought us some signs that the mayor had, and that he had hanging on the home at the time. And one of them was actually a clock, and the clock still worked. It was very cool. So my parents attached it back to the house where it originally was.
Nice.
And some of the signs, they told us, they showed us pictures and everything. It was very cool. But I want to say it was definitely earlier 1900s. I can't remember exactly when, but it was very cool to kind of see those and experience it and everything. So there is a lot of history. That one is kind of on the Kettering and Oakwood border. That's why I said that. And actually the Wright brothers' home, I think, is technically considered Oakwood, if you will.
Okay.
So definitely a lot. And then I do have one more fun fact. Haunted houses are especially of high value, even with their bad reputation, if you will.
How do you know if they're haunted? What makes a house a haunted house?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was very interesting. But there is a specific market for it. I know, what was the one, it's a very popular house that just came available. There's a movie about it. I can't remember what it is. Somethingville family.
Like Amityville?
Yes,
okay.
I think
like
so.
Like Amityville Horror?
Yeah, so I believe that's it. It just came available, and it was like, I can't remember the price, but it was ridiculously high. And I was like, who would want to buy that with all the stories? And me personally, I'm like,
right.
I don't want it.
No, thank you.
But when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting because someone will. I know there was another one that recently also came on the market, I want to say last fall. So it's very interesting because when I saw those, the prices on them, I was like, what in the world? But now it makes sense.
Yeah. They've got a little niche.
Yeah. It's crazy. So I just want to end this, as, buying a home or a property investment is always, a huge purchase, irregardless of the age of the home or whether it's historic or not. But definitely, before you buy the property, learn about it, look it up, see if it is in a historic district or if the property itself is historic. And then based on that, kind of have those cautions in mind that,
right.
Time may be a little longer and maybe have a little bit of a larger budget or see if that will fit within your budget for that cushion. Absolutely.
Right.
That is all that I have. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, just like I said, get out in front of it. Do your research. Don't make your defense be, I didn't know, because it's not going to fly. No. So yeah. Know what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And like you said in the vlog, a lot of, if you're in a historic district, a lot of the committee members live in the historic district themselves and they will have eyes on the property.
Right.
So
exactly.
Definitely cross all your T's and dot all your I's. All right. Well, that's all that I have for you guys today. We always like to end this with invest smart
and live happy.
Bye, guys.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific personal or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions and information on this show are not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss.